Gail mentioned, we begin this hour with one of the biggest hip-hop artists in the game, Meek Mill, who is celebrating a huge step forward in his fight to reform the criminal justice system. A law that he and his organization, the Reform Alliance, fought for took effect in Florida last month. It allows people to shorten their probation term by getting credits by going to school or working at least 30 hours a week. The law also allows people to check in remotely with their probation officers. Mill was inspired to create the Reform Alliance with some of the biggest names in the industry like Jay-Z after he was incarcerated for 5 months for probation violation. Fans demanded his release, spurring the Free Meek Mill movement.
And that movement was real. Meek Mill and entrepreneur Michael Rubin and businessman, co-chair of the Reform Alliance, and join us at the table to discuss. We welcome you both. This is really exciting news because it shows all the hard work you guys have been doing paid off. Why is this such a big deal, Michael? Start us off with that.
You know, for me, I didn't understand anything about the issue. Then I watched one of my closest friends go to prison for not committing a crime. I didn't think that was possible. And so once Meek got out...
You didn't think it was possible that you could go to prison when you didn't do anything?
For not committing a crime?
Yes.
No, that's not logical. And 25% of the people that go to prison each year don't commit a crime, but they go to prison. And that's what we need to fix.
And so what did you do?
As soon as Meek got out, Meek, Jay-Z, myself, Robert Kraft got together and we started the Reform Alliance with a goal of how do we get at least 1 million people that are on probation and parole that shouldn't be out of the system. There were 4.5 million people when we started. Today there's 4 million people. We're fixing the underlying system. That's what you need to do. So we're changing laws on a state-by-state basis. So far, we've passed 16 bills, 10 states. 650,000 people are on a pathway to get out of prison in the next 5 years that shouldn't be there. Now, by the way, there's people that do belong in prison.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is about getting the people that shouldn't be in prison out of prison and how we keep communities safe and also not waste taxpayer money. And we're doing all of that.
And Meek, this is personal for you. I want people to understand what you went through. Can you briefly describe it? I remember once hearing you say a judge or a prosecutor with a pen can cause just as much damage and be just as deadly as someone with a gun.
When I made that statement, I actually made it from sitting in the courtroom watching a judge just sentence men and women over simple violations like weed, marijuana. You smoke marijuana on probation and, you know, you got sent to a state prison and, you know, your kids grew up without a mother for 3 years. I just didn't think that decision was the right decision to be made out of common sense. And then, you know, later on in my life, it started to affect my life. Me, I was a lucky one to escape it, but many others like me weren't able to escape it, and I was able to be in those prisons with those people face to face while being successful. Seeing those people march for me, Michael stood up for me. We sat down in that visiting room. I told him about my case and everything, how I got in this situation, stood up to all my wrongs or whatever I felt I'd done wrong, and expressed to him about how probation basically almost rejected me from having a fair shot at life that the average young black man should have coming up. So, you know, I wanted to help and make a change with that, what we're doing now.
You mentioned the marijuana violation. That's one way that people can get back into jail when they're on parole, if I have the term right. What are some of the other ways, the sort of simple violations that can send a person back to prison? I
could just give you a few. Like if, Gail, you was taking kids to Disney World tomorrow and I wanted to take my son tomorrow, and if I was on probation, if I went to Disney World with you and not having like a sexual crime or anything like that where you couldn't be around kids, if I went to Disney World with you, I would be arrested just for taking my child to Disney World if I didn't contact my probationer in a certain manner, my probation officer. You could be arrested for not being hired for a job. You know, you can't time when you would be hired for a job, you know, especially if you have a felony on your record. You could be sent to prison for not completing school, for not completing the program, or just
getting your kid up from school. I used to listen to voicemails from Meek's probation officer. He'd say, can I pick my kid up from school? 10 minutes from where he lives in New Jersey. He lived in Pennsylvania. She'd say, no, if you pick your kid up, I will send you to prison. Wow. That is crazy.
In real time on real live TV, I like to express that. Like where I'm from in Philadelphia, it's a lot of violence for the young black and brown. So my son would attend school in New Jersey. He lived in a suburban area because he he grew above poverty through my music success.
And he's a smart kid.
Yes, a very smart
kid.
child. So, you know, me being a rapper traveling the world, some days I would want to go home and take my child to school.
Of course.
It's kind of almost impossible to make that decision and call a probation officer. So I would take the risk of taking my child to school so he could have the feeling of his father being there some of those days.
Earlier you mentioned jobs, and the Reform Alliance, it also puts together job fairs.
Yeah.
Why is this an important aspect of probation reform?
I believe it's an important aspect because if you're out here and being a person who contributes to society, I think you should work for your own money. You know, having a felony is already a strike against you,
right?
Where you'll be at a disadvantage. So we try to provide jobs to people who, like myself, I don't know if you guys call it a second chance. I live by God, so I don't live by chances, but a second chance give them a chance to rebuild themselves. And
you know, T.D. Jakes said something interesting, Meek, once. He told me that he's never seen somebody who had to go to work the next day who was robbing somebody. He said, so the importance of having a job and having a purpose. Michael, I've heard you say this system is broken. That it starts with the system is broken.
And that's really what we want to fundamentally fix. When I saw Meek go to prison for not committing a crime, for literally popping a wheelie on a motorcycle and got sentenced to 2 to 4 years because he was on probation.
Yeah.
Once you know, Jay-Z and Desiree Perez and myself worked together to get him out of prison, we have to fix the underlying system. You can't fix this one at a time. There's a systemic issue that there are millions of people today on probation that shouldn't be on probation and parole. Now, by the way, there's millions that are on probation and parole that should be there and that need help and need to be rebuilt.
But for those who are doing the right thing, though, the system is broken.
Yeah.
It's not rewarding their decisions of turning their life around.
I know we have to go, but can you just tell us something about the new music that's coming?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You seem to be in a really good place in your life, are you?
Yeah, I'm in a real hungry place in my life. So, you know, we have September coming up. I've been out the way, just working on business, turning my business models up on the inside before I dive back in and really come.
So is it dropping soon? When we talking about?
Yeah, Trey Young, a lot of the guys, the twins, a lot of them been calling me for my music, and I've been giving it to them to practice to, because
streets are waiting.
You know, I make that war-ready dedication, dream-chasing music, so September should be about the time.
Here we go.
Beyonce and Meek, new music out at the same time.
Yeah.
Mike, we know business is going well for you.
New reform, new music, we're giving it to them all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for being here. Meek Mill, Michael Rubin, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your time.
Right now, it is 8:08. Time to check your local weather.